Donald Trump's tariffs are kicking in now, and this is dragging Bitcoin down and causing it to crash further. We're really seeing a mini crash here, so not a big crash, just a little mini crash. But we need to be careful, because many assume that Bitcoin is going to sell off even more now. We're already seeing all the video titles again. Bitcoin is dropping to $60,000, $70,000, $90,000, $95,000. But there are also a lot of people who are just saying, hey folks, stay cool. This whole thing is a bear trap. So we're really not seeing the best short-term outlook right now. We're also going to take a look at what the deal is with the tariffs. Even people, like Robert Kiyosaki. A whole lot of people think that Bitcoin is going to crash again. Robert Kiyosaki says, but like others who are panicking right now, he says, hey, this is great, I can get in on this. Buying new Bitcoin. This means that you should not panic now because in the long term, nothing has changed about Bitcoin. So we're generally looking at more of a bear trap here, which means a lot of people who aren't heavily invested in the market are going to sell off. They'll let themselves be dragged down by the panic. Because, of course, this is a big deal. That's what's happening right now. China, Canada, Mexico, tariffs here on the USA, or rather the other way around, the USA. Imposing tariffs on these countries. And in the end, this is really a big deal that's happening here. We're really seeing trade wars here. We've got here, as I mentioned in the last video, something like a geopolitical battlefield on an economic level. On a currency level. And that's definitely super interesting. That things are heating up. But we need to keep a cool head, because I feel like the market situation is completely switching back right now. Bearish makes no sense. Makes sense. So fundamentally, things really look good, also in the long run and so on. And I don't understand why people are getting so much fear and panic right now. Here, Robert Kiyosaki said it quite well. He says here, Trump tariffs start, gold, silver, and Bitcoin could crash. All right, I'll buy more. So he says it's good if they crash. Then he would just buy even more. If the prices crash, then I'll just keep buying more. The real problem is the debt, which is only getting worse. And crashes mean that assets are up for sale. Time to get rich, and that's exactly how you have to look at it in the end. That means wealth isn't just created. When Bitcoin keeps going up, but we're at the lowest point of the bear market, it really makes a difference. Okay, are we taking massive gains here, or are we not taking any massive gains? We're not at the lowest point of the bear market right now. This is a simple bear trap, at least in my opinion. So that means when some FUD, fear, uncertainty, doubt, comes up, there's a ton of panic. People are running in here. They get scared, Trump, tariffs, blah, blah, blah. Then they sell all their Bitcoin, and it just keeps going down. Down. Then there are people who are basically using this to put shorts in here. Through the shorts that are being placed here, because they're obviously riding the market panic. It's going to go down even further in the short term. Some people are already shouting about market manipulation again. But all the panic or the whole sell-off, you could say. There's really no technical reason for this, but rather a psychological one. So we're really just driven by psychology here. And right now, we have a little downward spiral, a little bear trap. But it can correct very quickly. That means we could definitely go down again, what do I know? Going down 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 euros. Maybe I'm underestimating it. But we will see the return again. With Bitcoin, there's always a return. And it's always like we're heading into a bear market now. Then people say, yeah, now we're finally in a bear market. Now 100,000 has now broken through. Now we're back under 100,000. And now we're returning to the bear market. You guys also need to look at the long term. Imagine if someone had told you a year ago that Bitcoin would be worth 100,000 US dollars, then you would have taken it easily. And it's just like how a lot of people always say, I think, wasn't it once? Michael Saylor said that Bitcoin is going to rise to some ridiculously high amount. I don't know, to $200,000. And then Bitcoin will be 200,000, crash down to $150,000. And people are going to completely lose it. But you have to see the bigger picture. If Bitcoin before that from, what do I know? 17,000 US dollars rises to 200,000 US dollars and then corrects here by 50,000 US dollars. Then in the end, it's a laughing stock, and then in the end, it's really important to stay calm and see through the whole situation. Plus, we need to understand that we're now in certain regions where it's really easy, that the price can also correct by several $1,000s. In the past, that wasn't really the case because when you're sitting at $17,000, then a correction of 500 or 800, 900 euros is already quite a lot. Because we simply have a lower price in relation to the corrections. And when you're sitting at, say, $1 million, it's super easy if the Bitcoin price corrects by $10,000 in a day. Because we just have different relationships here. That means the higher the Bitcoin price goes, the higher the pullbacks in volume are, of course. So the $5,000 pullbacks we're seeing now aren't really that bad. Such as before, what do I know? A few years ago when Bitcoin was at 120,000. Because that's just in relation. It made a much bigger difference back then because the Bitcoin price was lower. Let's take a look at what Donald Trump said here. He made another tweet here and says, "Today I imposed a tariff. 25% on imports from Mexico and Canada, 10% on Canadian energy, and an additional 10% tariff on China. This was done in the name of the International Emergency Economic Powers Act due to the significant impact of illegal immigration and deadly drugs that are killing our citizens, including fentanyl, and it doesn't stop there." Donald Trump also announced that he would impose 100% tariffs on everyone who doesn't agree with the US on this. On everyone who says, in the end, "Hey folks, we don't want anything to do with the dollar anymore. We want to build our own payment infrastructure, and we might trade with Bitcoin," and stuff like that. Donald Trump basically threatened with peace tariffs. And that's the whole thing. Now, that we see a huge fear of inflation, and inflation always means uncertainty, it brings a lot of uncertainty for the markets in general, because we don't know if this will have a positive or negative effect on the financial markets. Some say Donald Trump has lost control. He's becoming delusional, and he can't just completely isolate himself from the world. You can just say, "Hey, we're the big bosses now, and anyone who doesn't dance along with us, we punish them, we censor them, and so on." I said it before, and I see it critically, because this has nothing to do with free markets, free trade, and so on. Rather, it's definitely a socialist tool that Donald Trump is using this. What I find really amazing, with 21-bit coin, you can currently see that people are buying in massively again. That means a whole lot of people who are watching here. They don't see it as a big problem, but like Robert Kiyosaki, they're buying in massively. Here's the recommendation, by the way. If you want to buy Bitcoin, if you want to buy the dip here, sign up at 21-bit coin. Here you can buy Bitcoin super simple, easy, and safe. With the code Bitcoin, you can still get up to 20% fees off when buying Bitcoin. An absolute recommendation here. It even says in the Forbes article, "Hey, Donald Trump sparks Bitcoin price crash fears." So here, not only has Donald Trump caused this, that the Bitcoin price has already corrected downwards is, so like I said, the crash. And so it's always a matter of definition. You could maybe call it a mini crash. If it really goes towards, if it goes to 90,000 US dollars, then we definitely have a crash. Even Forbes is now writing about the fears that are in the market. And that's obviously a self-fulfilling prophecy. When the Bitcoin price goes down, then the bad news comes and people get even more unsettled. Then the Bitcoin price drops even further, and worse news comes, making people even more anxious. Then the Bitcoin price continues to fall and we see even more selling and so on. And now there was a very, very exciting post here which ultimately describes this. How these downward spirals are also caused by market manipulation or by traders. Are these really manipulators? Manipulators are. Michael Saylord say no, these are not manipulators. These are just normal market mechanisms that anyone can take advantage of. Other people would say these are here. Market manipulation. But there was a very, very interesting post that described how this works. Why there can still be massive movements here at the weekend, and why we could still see some significant pullbacks throughout the day today. Here, one person writes, "I was the leading market maker at Jump, and this is really about market manipulation. I'm no longer bound by a confidentiality agreement. So I can say that. That means he wasn't allowed talk before. Now he can speak freely." He says it was a tactic that I came up with during low volume phases. So low volume is especially common on weekends, like today, for example, on a Sunday. We built positions and used crypto Twitter as a source for market sentiment, with certain accounts that were categorized in specific ways. Smart traders know that we will eventually target the weak candle again. So it was a good bait for me. As eager buyers jumped in, the candle fell again. In the end, they capitulated. Before we turned around, even bottom shorters felt comfortable here. Anyway, I can't give too much away. But just so you know, indeed, most of this bad price action that you see, there are a group of traders all sitting collectively in a chat room, just painting the charts. So, to break it down, this means that the price is also being influenced, in the short term, by market manipulation from big players who hold large positions. They then look at the liquidity zones. They're looking at, okay, where's the liquidity? Where is there no liquidity? How can we take advantage of that? And how can we combine it with the general sentiment of the market? So if a panic starts to rise, then a lot of people are probably going to go short. So that means this is the perfect moment to go short here in the short term. Doesn't that mean, of course, that I would recommend that or something like that? You can really burn your fingers badly there. There are also a few people who say, hey, never short Bitcoin. So never bet against Bitcoin. Or there are other people who say, for example, never short the USA. Other people say, for example, never short Elon Musk. There are just a few big players you really have to watch out for when putting in shorts. We have also seen that in the past things have gone massively wrong when you set shorts. And today is Sunday, and at 6 p.m. on Sunday, I'm not a trader, but at 6 p.m. on Sunday, you can also see the market close, like the weekly close and all that. And then we tend to have a low volume there. Now we basically have the bad sentiment. And now maybe some people are assuming that there might still be a lot of liquidity being shuffled around at this time, or something like that. It doesn't have to happen, but that could ultimately lead to it, that we might see even bigger sell-offs. Because in the end, the scenario that has been described here just builds up and plays out. And that will become a self-fulfilling prophecy. And like I said, then the next articles will come too. Now it took an even bigger dip. And then things happen again. And those are really the kinds of things. How Bitcoin can suddenly switch from a very, very positive sentiment. And then it hits a bear market and doesn't recover anymore. That's how big bear markets have always started. I don't want to say that this is the case here, because I still see more of a bear trap here. But look, you shouldn't forget, we still have the whole story in the background that we're potentially looking at a Bitcoin reserve, that we now have all these states that are implementing a strategic Bitcoin reserve here, that more and more countries are starting to trade in Bitcoin internationally. Russia has said, or rather the finance minister in Russia has said, that they are trading here. In Bitcoin, we have massive buyers. Michael Saylor is going to buy up this dip massively. It's going to be interesting on Monday when, for example, the stock markets open up again, when the Bitcoin ETFs hit us like that. What happens then? Whether they will panic here or if this whole thing will be bought up instead. So in my opinion, I'd say we definitely still have a strong buying side. So we have the short sellers who want to manipulate the markets or something like that, want to take advantage of it. Call it what you want. But we also have the big buyers who couldn't care less. Michael Saylor couldn't care less whether the Bitcoin price is at $90,000, $95,000, or $106,000. He was also criticized for buying the top. But Michael Saylor buys the top, he buys the bottom. He just keeps buying more and more. And that's definitely a big recommendation for you all, not to let yourselves get rattled. Maybe just set up a savings plan. You really don't need to pay too much attention to the news. I mean, I'm handling this, of course. I'm telling you here, don't let yourselves get panicked and all that. But if you actually have a savings plan in place, then you really don't need to panic. You could theoretically ignore this video, not even watch it, go to the beach or chill in the garden. Or, I don't know, do some snow shoveling. I don't know how much snow you guys have at home here. I think it's around 30 degrees or something like that. But the most important thing here is no panic. I even found an article online. Here it says, Bitcoin analysts are warning of a possible bear trap despite the record high. This is what it's all about. Yeah, exactly. In the end, that's what I talked about. That doesn't mean just one side. So one side is telling you, okay, Bitcoin short. Bitcoin is going to drop all the way down to $60,000. The other side, which is more like, I'm saying it's more like, hey, this whole thing is just a bear trap. We're seeing a slight pullback. But then Bitcoin will recover again. The fundamentals in the long run are strong and it's going up in the long run. Bitcoin to the moon. You can't really say when Bitcoin is going to peak or when it's going to hit 1 million or something like that. But we have a long-term upward trend, not downward. And now, to wrap things up, here's an important note. So, we have 6 days left until the live call here for Bitcoin Advantage. And the people are really here. Crazy. It's really going over well. I'm surprised myself. But it's also understandable. Because here in the live call, if you're here, you'll be the first to know what the Bitcoin Advantage is. There are giveaways for memberships here. So, there are even goodies, free giveaways here. And you can of course ask questions. I'll put a link down below, so make sure to sign up. Just a heads up, so you can definitely secure a spot and be part of it. Guys, let me know how things are looking for you. What's the current sentiment? Are you feeling bullish or are you bearish? Have you liquidated everything? Are you going short? Do you have to start working for Donald again, or are you taking it easy? See you then. Peace out.